Welcome back, everyone. Today we have another patch review. Patch day is today, and we're, hoping that the game gets massively fixed, which it does seem like it will be. I think we are coming out of the worst meta of all time, and I think most, if not, I'm not gonna say all, but like a vast majority of players agree that this was probably the worst meta we ever had, both tournament and ladder-wise. It's just horrendous, so one-dimensional. Siren Song just like broke everything. Denied a bunch of decks from being played. It was just like weird all around, like lowest player agency, lowest skill games, just like high RNG, everything was just like bad about it. But yeah, let's hope this patch fixes something. Like I said, the patch looks good. I already looked through the cards yesterday and stuff, so let's go through them. This is patch 4.7, I think, yeah. And the first nerf we have here is Crimson Pigeon. I like this change. I think Crimson Pigeon was definitely the strongest one drop in standard by a decent margin, I think. And the only problem I have with it, it might like kick down aggro decks too much, I would say. It feels like aggro has been struggling for a bit in standard with Rearguard wasn't in standard, right? It was rotated out and stuff. So now Noxus is like liking 1-drops and stuff, which is like kind of weird. Noxus was always like the best aggro region, and it usually like had some contenders for a tier 1 or 2 aggro deck, which might like, maybe I'm just overreacting. I feel like this change is like too drastic, but in general, like I like that the card was nerfed. It was definitely overperforming. I just maybe think like a slightly weaker nerf would have been better, like granting like maybe just HP or maybe just attack or something like that would have been better. But we'll see over time. Maybe I'm overreacting, and the card is still good. Coin, definitely the second best change in the patch. Maybe the first one gameplay wise. I despise how Coin works. Karma set is annoying to deal with. It doesn't allow control decks to exist because it just like inevitably beats them. There's nothing control decks can do against it because you can just generate infinite value and mana in response when you Karma on board in 10, but this prevents you from doing anything. You have to like either actually protect your Karma and then go off, or just let Karma die and lose. So change is great, and as Dev said, it allowed for a lot of Bilgewater coin cards to be buffed, which is a good thing because I'm not against like the coin mechanic. It is an interesting mechanic. It lets you like, same as like the mana system in LoR, it lets you sacrifice some early tempo so you can like burst out stuff later. I don't mean like burst like speed wise, I mean like use a bunch of cards in a small amount of turns, so you can like power spike somewhere in the mid game usually. So I like the coin as a mechanic, and this should fix like a lot of the problems we had. Kai'Sa losing quick attack is, I think it's really good. I'm torn on this one because I didn't see Kai'Sa be that prevalent, but it was decent. It was like hiding in the back of like tier 1 for a couple of seasons, and maybe just like waiting for a time to become the best deck again. But the change itself is really good. I like just getting the quick attack. I don't like that she had quick attack, so it didn't incentivize you to play quick attack cards like Akshan or Sivir Eternal or whatever with her. Plus, it like made her too easy to level, which is like both problems that are solved by this. Also, another one is you can actually just block her now unless she steals like Challenger or lose Sivir quick attack, right? Which is always good because usually she was too good versus just like raw stats as well, which you don't expect a card like this to be. So I really like the change here. Whether it was called for or not, I don't know. Probably yes. So on board with the whole thing. Okay. Powder Pandemonium. That was where like, bro, we took away the vulnerable and the card is still playable. Let's just like +2 mana. Not even +1 mana, just like +2 mana. This card is not supposed to be like in a meta. It's not supposed to be like even playable, so let's just like make sure nobody plays it again, and that's what they did. There's no way this card sees played 7 mana in any kind of capacity, unless you're playing like actual meme decks, just like fooling around with monkeys. But in a relevant deck for the meta, this is never seen play. A Legionary Charge is the only Eternal change, targeting the Plaza Guardian, which is also changed here. The dev said the fact it's a tutor bothers them, and it just gives a lot of like, what would I even say? It's not It's not as in other card games where you have to choose because it's a digital card game and how the UI works. You don't get to choose which unit it is. It's always like random, but you can still like make it into a consistency card by just playing it as a entreat in a mono champion deck, right? Where it always draws the same thing. Same as in the Plaza Guardian deck. It was the only 5 attacks. It always drew the Plaza Guardian, which is like not something they want. They didn't want like that kind of consistency present in the game. They're just like kicking it down a notch to make sure it sees less play or no play at all, I guess. And Plaza Guardian also getting hit a little bit. I'm fine with these changes. I didn't really like the deck. It was super overperforming. Kind of weird that they did it now instead of in the next patch. Might as well just wait and see. But you won't really see anything in standard. This deck doesn't really see any play. Obviously, especially on this because it's not legal. But yeah, you're gonna do a patch before Eternal anyway, so might as well wait, but whatever. Siren Song getting +2 mana cost is huge. Our saving grace. Without this, no one would still even touch the meta. It would be awful to play in. But with this, I think the meta is going to be great. Or at least significantly improved. +2 is a lot. Like the fact that you can only play it on turn 3 without playing anything beforehand, and if you play 2 of these, that's 12 mana. Like you're losing so much tempo. There's no way this card is playable, or any deck playing it, obviously. So good change. I don't like the design of this card. I don't want it to be playable. Just get it out of here. Great change, probably the best change in the set, in the patch, and it needed to happen. I'll say it. It needed to get over nerfed. If they slightly nerfed it and it was still viable, that would win the whole thing. Okay, that's it for nerfs. Let's go to the buffs. So this is the first coin card they buffed. I like the card in general. It's same as like, I want to say like Glimpse or something like that, where it's a really good card, but well, Glimpse is obviously better, but it's a good effect that's tied to a risky thing, right? Like you have to actually kill the unit so they can like heal it, they can buff it, they can do anything, and then this card is absolute dog shit. Same as like Glimpse, right? If they kill your thing in response, it doesn't do anything, so it like brings more player agency and more back and forth and more decisions on both sides on how the game pans out, which is exactly the type of cards I like. So super good change. It goes to 4 damage. Goes to 3 damage, 4 mana, which is a damage profile that Bilgewater doesn't have access to. I guess they mostly just have like pings, so even 2 damage is like slightly harder for them, but usually this kind of thing is like paired with PNZ, like Jack Seraphine or something. And in general, PNZ decks are super popular in standard, so you have a lot of access to 2 damage spells, so this is a 3 damage one to like hit things that the other one can't. Hush going to 2 cost. It's actually insane that this card was one of the strongest cards when I started playing the game like 2 years ago, when Nasus Trash came out the first time during the TLC season before Azraelia and stuff. This was like one of the best cards in the game at 3 mana, and now it needs to be buffed. It's actually hilarious. Because all the weapons being printed, it just like fell back because you can't silence the weapon keywords away. So it's worse. A lot of like stats things came out, and even though like the Siren Song decks played Hush a lot, the Hush had nothing to do with it. You played Hush to counter the Siren Song, otherwise the card was bad. At 2 mana it might see more play, obviously, but it's still gonna be like lacking here and there. What it buffs a lot is the Tellstones. The Targon Tellstones is really good now. It first got a change of spells, then it got buffed the Tarek spell, and now Hush buffed. Like that's a triple buff to the card. It's humongous. Definitely wanna play that card if you have access to Targon, obviously, but yeah. Also, obviously, the card is not good enough for what they said here. The primary interaction that Targon has access to, it just wasn't cutting it as like the power level wasn't high enough to be the best one, right? So I like the change. A Rhyme Fang pack and the cards generated. This is a Ash LeBlanc buff. Hog you. Along with another buff down here. Is it here? Spoilers. This card as well. Let's go over this card because I like that the walls because of this card as well. I tried to jam the Glacial Saurian in Ash LeBlanc instead of Hard Guard and stuff because top 3 units +1/+1 is like good enough in most cases. Plus drawing a card is like huge if you can get the units with subtypes. And this is like a cute change. I don't know if I even like overall over 5/5, but whatever, that one doesn't matter. But if that card is seeing play in Ash LeBlanc, for now we had access to only Omen Hawk and the Yetis as playable subtype cards in Ash LeBlanc, and this gives us like some dogs, which are they seem to be playable, but we'll have to do some testing obviously. Both of these cards saw some play in, like, there was a variant of Ash LeBlanc that played the Reinfang Shaman, the thing that freezes a unit every turn because you just spammed Frostbites, and then you just get a humongous wolf. But now the main upside of the change here, I've seen people say that it's like more of a side grade, or like just a redesign rather than a buff. I think it's just a buff in most cases. Obviously it's different, so in some cases it's gonna be worse. But the main upside is you can play this kind of thing early on, like on 5. You can just slap an I'm playing Mother, and you can get a pack down, and even if it's small, it will grow later as you freeze stuff. Whereas playing this on 5 was usually pretty bad previously, because you don't usually freeze stuff early on. It's usually something that you use later in the game to like trade off, maybe level Ash and finish the game off that way. So all those things like taken into consideration, I think the new version of Reinfang pack is much better. This card hasn't changed as far as I can tell. It's literally just like changed to summon this instead, right? Instead of like buffing the base version of this. So different wording for the same thing. And then this one is like -1 cost, -1/-1, which is huge. I love it. You can play this on 5. And if you're playing Omen Hawk and the Glacial Saurian, you can get this to a 5/5 as well, so it triggers reputation for assessors and stuff, and then it summons a thing that grows as well. I like it. I like the changes. I think Ash LeBlanc is going to be one of the top contenders next season, but it's not going to be like one of those ultra top decks as a meta deck. It's going to be like a counter deck from what I'm expecting the meta to look like, and that's usually like Orange Axe, Vayne Aatrox, that kind of stuff hasn't been nerfed at all. And then like Nico and Porto King are all like, there's a lot of like stats things that are probably gonna come next season, or not next season. I guess it is. It's weird calling it a season. Just this patch, they're gonna be prevalent for the next tournament and stuff. So I'm expecting Ash LeBlanc to be a good counter to all of those. So excited for that. Probably like my favorite change subjectively because I love Ash LeBlanc. You guys know that. Jack seeing above. I'm not sure if it's necessary. Jack was kind of a good card before. I feel like he just didn't have like a good deck to shine in. The change is fine. It makes him heal when you refill mana, which is obviously like mostly gonna be used with coin. Maybe like what's the card called? The 6 mana, draw 2 and then refill 3 spell mana. The PNZ card. That thing also. I don't know what else is like playable that refills mana, but the coin being focused like hurts this a lot. Obviously this change is like huge with coin being burst, which is, they would never do that obviously, but with it being focused you can't kill him in response, so it's probably fine. It's not a huge deal. I think it was already good, so even a slight buff is probably gonna put him up there in the upper echelon of champions, but we'll see. I don't know how the meta is gonna look exactly, but I think Jack is gonna have a spot in the tier 1 decks for sure. Another buff to the plunder coin thingies, build water coin archetype, I guess. Angel getting plunder, create 3 coins in hand instead of 1 attack. Obviously huge buff. Card would never see play without the buff. With the buff, I don't think it still sees play. If I'm in a 5/5 brash that gets 3 coins, kind of weird, and like you having to open attack with 5 mana or do something like that to trigger the coin isn't really probably worth it. You probably want to like play this and then attack with it because of brash and stuff, so it feels kind of awkward, but we'll see how it pans out. I don't think this card sees play even with that, but I am not sure. I'm not a huge fan of Bilgewater, so I'm not gonna spend too much time thinking about it. We'll see how it pans out. Bakai Weatherclaw, this card was never taken into consideration of being put in a deck because it's awful. Now with it granting invulnerable, it's slightly less awful. Probably still awful. I don't think this makes the card playable. I don't think it was even close before. It might be close right now. I'm not sure. I haven't really like delved deep into like what we have access to vulnerable and stuff wise in standard, but only in a very niche meta can this ever be even considered, because the effects are like so weird and weak, and you have a 5 mana 5/4. It's just like probably too little for that big of a mana cost, but we'll see again. Faithful Wolf Dog. I remember people cooming when this card came out. They were like, "Bro, this card is broken." So people are playing it like, "Yo, they can't kill my units because I just get a 1 mana 4/4 or whatever you play weapon on it, right?" I was like, "No, this card is bad. What are you guys talking about?" And I was right. Card that like saw initial play in like the Jax Vayne or something deck, and I did say that deck was shit. The only reason it was playable was because it countered like a deck that was present at that time. I don't remember what it was. It was like Seraphine or something, and it was just like the big stats deck, which people were hyped for. So it was played then, and in that deck it kind of fit in there. But otherwise, I don't think this card is good. Even with the Forge instead of +1/+1, which is like strictly better, obviously. I think it's actually strictly better. I don't know if there's a case where it's not better. It's just, I don't think it does much. The card isn't that good in my opinion again, but maybe in a meta where you need like tempo units out, if there's like a lot of removal and stuff, and you want to jam this in like a Vayne deck or something, maybe there is a spot for it. It's also the first Forge Demacia card, which I guess kind of makes sense. They are like a military nation, they make weapons, so Forge makes sense, but Forge was a failure of mechanics so far. So kind of weird to like stay from that, but why not? Aurora Borealis from 6 to 5. This card saw some play way back in like the elusive photos and stuff. I don't know if people played it in Porto King. I'm not really interested in the archetype myself personally, and I haven't seen too much of it except for the first 2 days of the season. And people realized it's shit like I said it would be, and then stop playing it. But I don't know if it does too much. Having like 1 mana left over so you can slam this on turn 3 and just play the Porto. Because if I remember correctly, if you bank on 1, bank on 2 and play this, you overdraw if you can't play anything from what I remember. But now you can just play one of the Portos, so it's better. I'm not sure that's correct, but CBA doing that. And then we have like the tribal cards. We have Warden of the Tribes going to 8 cost. Art is probably still poop. Maybe not. If the game is slow enough, this card effect is obviously huge. So if the game is slow enough and you can slam this in an eco deck, obviously it wins the game. But whether the game is going to be slow enough for that to be relevant or not, we'll see. Casted Linehawk, still poop, not even close to playable, I think, but it got +1/+1, you know. It's one of those placebo changes, I feel like. Yanel has died different sometime than me, manifested the Demacian spell. Like, what are you doing with that? You're playing a 6 on a 6 stuff, which is awful, and you're getting a Demacian spell. Demacian spells aren't even good. There's some strikes and stuff, but Concerted is gone, rallies are gone. Like, there's a lot of things that rotated out that you would like want to hit, and it's just like, I don't feel like that's ever worth it, but we'll see. You have to like Glacial Soaring is like 10 times better than the screen. Speaking of, we touched on it before, last change, overwhelm instead of 1 HP. For Ash LeBlanc, it doesn't really matter. 1 unit having overwhelm when others don't is usually not relevant, but I guess it can be. In the Nico deck, it's probably the same. I guess in the Nico deck, you have more units with evasive keywords like elusive and overwhelm and fearsome and stuff. So because of that, you can put people in like weird situations because of this. But usually when you have a deck that's like full of like keywordless units, 1 overwhelm unit basically doesn't change anything because of how opponents forced to block and stuff. But we'll see. I'm not sure if this is going to impact the game enough, but it is a cute change. It is a change nonetheless. So yeah, that's my review of the patch. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this meta is much better than the last one. It's hard to make it worse, so it's going to be better. I think it's going to be much better. Maybe I'm hoping, I don't know. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed the video. And see you guys next time. Bye bye.